that leads me to, okay, how do you know like the life that you're supposed to live? Like, how do you decide what that vision looks like, so you know what you're working towards? You know how you know what to compare your progress bar to. I think personally, we need more values.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think enough people take values seriously. I feel it's just this like cliche, or maybe even like it's perceived as some like bullshit thing that companies do.
It's like, oh yeah, like
these almost, are our values.
It
kind
almost
of situation.
Feels like that's the off the shelf thing. Like mission, vision, values. And if you never heard of them, I'll put the definitions on the screen, because I never really like understood it. I would always hear in business school. I hear it almost like off the shelf, like make sure you have a mission. It's like a checklist. And I feel
like that kind of like put people off, because it's now this boring whatever thing. But I feel like those are the most important thing, because those are going to be what give you structure. That's what gives you a sense of direction in life, because life is just this wilderness. It's just this wild jungle, and you really have no idea what direction to go in if you don't have any goals and you don't have any values.
Period. I did not realize how important it was to have like, you would think, oh, I'm not a business, I don't need to have mission, I don't need to have a mission, a vision, values, whatever. That like, that's for entities that don't have like feelings and stuff. Everybody needs values, like at the very least. Okay, mission, vision, you might want to craft around like what you want to do with your life and your purpose. But values, I think every breathing being needs that. Because
so why don't we define values? Like what's your definition of it?
I actually wrote this down because I thought it was such a good way to put it.
Okay.
So we were talking about in the car. I think values, in my definition, are constraints that free you in the face of endless possibilities.
Wow.
That was kind of a combination of us talking about it, but like, they're just good constraints. They basically help you make decisions. That's how I see it. Yeah.
They allow you to make value judgments, value assessments. Like you have option 1, option 2. It's like, oh, how do I choose? Well, you don't, just make the decision based on money.
Right.
Don't just make the decision based on what your parents want or what you think society wants. You make the decision based on the value of
your values. And you get to choose them. That's the great part. And I feel that like choosing your values are very freeing. I've made TikToks about like how to choose it and values tests, but truly you could just look it up on Google, type in like values test, and essentially what all of the tests are going to do is give you a list of values, which I don't know who determined these values. So that's another philosophical question to get into, because like, are we choosing really? But anyway.
Well, but I mean, that's not the only way to do it, because I feel like I've taken a different approach to values. I really like your definition. I take like a really simple one, and values are just what you care about.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, like, I guess I didn't pick off a word bank.
Yeah.
But the 3 top values I arrived at just through reflection is relationships, because I value being with people. I value conversations like this. I just value other humans. Freedom is another big one for me. You know what I mean?
Okay, before we get into it, can I finish explaining?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just gonna finish explaining the like how to choose yours. If you want to go the route of choosing it from a word bank, you can Google the values list. I like the one from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits, and it's a simple list. How I did it in college, how I did it in corporate. I was actually doing an HR little like test with a group of leaders, and that helped me identify that I don't like this job. So that was ironic.
You can tell that story after.
I could tell that. I've told that so many times, but essentially we were doing like a leadership summit, and we were supposed to do a values exercise. And so they gave us a list of these values. It's very similar to James Clear's. And how they did it in that little workshop was you choose your top 10, and then you choose your top 5 from your top 10. And then I think from there, if you want to take it another step further, you can do your top 3. And that just helps you narrow it down, because there's a lot of words on that list. But for example, it could be freedom. It could be, authenticity, individuality, family, achievement, things like that. Those are like the standard values. And that's how you identify like actually what you care about, what matters most to you. And I like thinking about my top 3 to 5 as my like big constraints. And then of course there's like the ones that come up, but they're not as important as my top 3 or 5. So but you were listing yours. You were saying,
so my top 3 I would say are relationships, freedom, you know, I don't know. I feel like I've always been a little rebel, maybe because I'm the youngest sibling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I really value freedom. And because like freedom is the only way you can really live and explore your dream life.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have the freedom to explore, then you don't really have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is growth. You know what I mean? Like if you're not growing, I don't know what else you're doing. Because like the way I see it is that what life does is it grows. Like if you see a tree, what does a tree do? A tree grows. And if a tree's not growing, it's probably dead.
Mm-hmm,
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So growth is a key property of life.
Yeah, that's really good. Like, and it reminds me of that quote that's like, if you're not living, then you're dying.
Yeah.
You know, basically, which people tease about how like lame that sounds and like, oh, it's so cheesy, but like it's true. Like I said I was gonna bring this up, and I stick to my promise about Nick Cannon's quote that he did.
Oh yeah.
Nick Cannon recently went on the Diary of a CEO, the podcast, and he said a really cheesy quote, and everybody's been trolling him for it. He basically said something along the lines of, a lot of people think you need money to be happy, but really you need happy to have money and like, or to get money. And everybody's just like, you sound like an idiot.
But I get his point.
No,
you know
but he's right. Like, I don't care if you agree with his childbearing situation.
Yeah.
He is right. And like, I think celebrities don't know everything, and there's probably a lot that they're lacking, and you know, you don't want to look up to them for. But
Everyone's
if someone has a track record of accumulating money over a long period of time, they probably know how to make money. And I'm not saying that has to be the most important thing to you, but it's so true. When you are happy and you are doing what you're supposed to do, if you're living in your constraints, your good constraints, people are attracted to that, because guess what? Not everybody's doing it. A lot of people are not doing it. Yeah. Whether you like Nick Cannon or not, he's living authentically. Nobody else is having 20 kids. Well, a lot of people are actually, but like, you know, it's like you're still attracted to it, whether that's negative or positive. Like, my point being is that living authentically, doing what you want to do, living in your world, the world you create for yourself, that is something that people admire. Either they look up to you, they like it, or they hate it, and they're going to have something to say, and they're going to start a conversation about it. And I think you should be in a situation where your values make you polarizing. Like, you should be attracting people just as much as you are repelling people.
Right.
If my values are freedom, I don't want somebody whose values are like very conservative, you know, because I want freedom. Like, that's what I'm going to want. Like, I know over time. And I think another way to look at like, how do I really know if this is my value? Like, look at your life. There are patterns, things you've left and things you've come close to.
Gone toward, yeah.
What is causing that? I notice in my life, I leave a lot of situations where I don't have a lot of power, you know, and it's like, I like I feel and you know what I'm talking about, that feeling of like, oh my God, like a lot of us when we go on vacation, and I would analyze,
or like the last day of school.
Day of school. Anytime you are feeling like, damn, I'm on fire right now. Like, like you're feeling good. Like you below the waist wants to move. That's
okay. I didn't know about that.
No, like, you know, when you just feel like, you know, you do that all the time. Just shut up. But basically, you feel like your brain almost feels like it's having an explosion. Last day of school, graduating, maybe for some, that didn't really happen for me, but going on vacation, I would really look at what you feel. And maybe you don't always have fun going on vacation, but like whatever you can identify, I always have fun doing this. What is it that you're feeling when you're doing that thing? When I go on vacation, number one reason I feel good, I'm free. No schedule, no boss, no messages, no nothing. I can choose what I like to do. Guess what? That's not vacation that's necessarily giving it to me. It's allowing for it, but I can create freedom in all my situations, because that's what, and I feel like the values give you constraints, but they also give you the power to choose,
right?
You know, and it's like, instead of saying, oh, that means I have to live on vacation all the time. Okay, like maybe, but not really. I think it's the feelings that I get. How can I recreate those feelings on a day to day, you know? And then that's why for me, me having a vacation every day is the life I'm living right now. I am having the freedom to choose what I want to do every single day. That is peak dream life for me. That's like number one. which is like our values overlap a lot.
Yeah. What are your top 3?
My top 3
said freedom.
Freedom is number 1. Like I will always, like I can't even express how much that is number 1 for me. 2 has to be, it's a tie between authenticity and fun.
Okay.
Which I'll just say authenticity, because usually if I'm being authentic, that's a situation where I'm typically having fun.
Yeah.
But I need to be myself. And again, they're very similar. Like I need to be free in order to be myself, and I need to be myself to have fun. Right. And then my other one is creativity. Okay. I need to be having fun so that I can be creative. It's like, I think my last one is, or for my top 5 is growth.
Yeah.
And that's also tied with achievement. But I think typically when I'm growing, I'm achieving things. So I would cascade it like that. So mine are freedom, authenticity, fun, creativity, and growth. And that's also the values for my company because iOS Studios, by the way.
Wow.
Just throwing that in there. So when I did that exercise in my job, or at my job, I knew those were my values, like not only through the list and narrowing it down, it's because everyone at the table who was giving their values and saying them out loud they were saying values that I was snoozing at. Like they sounded so boring.
You didn't even see those on the paper. You didn't even, that was on here.
I was like falling asleep. I was like, this sounds so boring. It was like, I don't know. It was just like discipline and you know, family and security, safety. It was just boring. It was just giving boring to me. And I was like, I need to be doing something a little bit more creative. I can be very strategic and I can be very like serious.
Yeah.
I like working and I like structure, but I crave having fun. Every day needs to be fun. Like he can be in a situation where he's just like same old thing, grind, and like it can be very like raw or masculine, which I love that for him. But I need every day there needs to be a treat. We're getting ice cream, or we're eating lunch somewhere new, or I'm working somewhere new. Like I can't sit in one spot and just do the same thing unless I'm like editing a video. Like that's where I lose time. And like the editing is so dynamic and novel that it doesn't matter. But like every day needs to be new. That's why I like to travel often. I like going to new places. Like I love switching things up. And I couldn't work in an environment where it was the same every day. I was in an environment where I told people like, hey, let's have team calls where we're not talking about work. And they were blown away. And they were like, that is such a good idea. I was like, maybe we can play something like, what's that game? Like Heads Up.
Oh.
Or like, and I don't even like games. Like, it was like Heads Up or 21 questions, literally. And they're like, oh my God, that is so fun. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. I didn't know in the moment that I valued fun, but if I look back at my life, I hated school because I didn't hate school, but school's a snore fest. I didn't like going to class. My senior year, I probably went to like 10 classes total. But I also had like 3 jobs because I loved doing things. I'm an executor. I like achieving things. I like doing, again, that's another value.
Checklist mode.
I love, me and my friend Katie, shout out to you for watching. We get into checklist mode where we just like love creating tasks and doing them. It's actually not healthy and I'm not trying to glamorize it, but I'm obviously still mentally ill about it. Like,
but you like doing things. I like doing executing.
I like executing, but I didn't like going to class because I'm like, okay, boring. I could do that, you know, in my free time. Again, revolving my life around my life, and school was like a side character. But I was like, I want to work. So I was like doing Amazon Prime student ambassador stuff. Like I was an event planner for the campus, and then I also was an interning at the corporate job that I ended up quitting. Honestly, looking back, it's like the same shit that I do now.
Yeah.
Look at the patterns in your life, identify what decisions you're making and why. Why did you make certain decisions in your life? Like, look at the pivotal moments, but even in the day to day, why do you always crave X? Why are you always thinking about X when you shouldn't be? All these things you shouldn't be doing, think about that. Why do they happen? Because that's probably telling you, indicating the theme that keeps coming back in your life. And that has a lot to do with your values.